Yes, you have found it, the ultimate amazing video on how to use that stunning Agapanthus plant. Not just the single beautiful little flowers, but also those tall, glorious stems, the stalks that arrive once the flower is finished, the leaves at the bottom that bend so beautifully, the gorgeous green seeds that last forever and ever. It's using every part of the Agapanthus, just waiting for you right now. I spent the last 10 minutes or so cutting all of the seed pods off of this and just clearing it all out so that they're nice and clean. And I'm going to cut them to the length that I want them to go into this ring container. It's an old-fashioned vase. You'll find it probably in second-hand shops. If you can't find it, just use an ordinary glass dish. Casserole dish would be fine. So I'm now measuring it. It's about the size I want it to be, and this time I have to cut it really flat. So a good little thing to do is hold it against a board like that so that you'll get it nice and flat, so it will sit in there nice and flat. And the bottom of the stalk I'm going to do the same thing with again. And they will sit in there like that. Then we have a skewer. Toothpick will also do this job. And you'll notice that I'm picking one that's got the sharp point on its end, because I'm going to go through this stalk here, out the other side, here it comes, and then skewer it into the next row. I'm going to do this several times, and I don't want them all even, so some of them are going to be cut much lower because I want that variety. And then poke that one into the one before. We're going to be building quite a mesh of these skewers, and the skewers become part of the pattern for this layer. So we're going to have a layer of these right the way around. Now, if it's really too hard, you can get a hand drill to put those in with. Like everything, the more skewers you put in, the steadier it's going to be. The next one, and I go twist them in and cut the next one. If you've got somebody else that can hold it, while you just get this first part done, it's actually easier, particularly if you haven't got a ringed vase. If you've got just an ordinary casserole type dish, you will definitely need someone to hold them for you. So you get the idea. You can have these as even as you want, where you put the stalks, and pop that one in there. So I'm not going to have them as far apart as the other one. What's cool about this mechanism, it's very modern, and you've got all of these going vertical, and now we've got a horizontal layer as well. The more of these skewers you put in, the more stable it is going to be. And of course I've now just got to fill in this little gap here, and I'll bring it back over to that point there. So I'll keep going, adding. So fine row began, and where I ended you won't be able to, because they're now all joined up. If it starts to develop a lean or anything like that, you may like to put a second row of the skewers around the top. It would look just as cool. To do that, just pop one through here, and one through here. And besides becoming decorative, it does become another mechanic to hold it all together. And it can be quite random how you put them in. Now I'm screwing it. If it doesn't go straight through, just turn the skewer and it will put them in place. Here it comes. Now we can add the water. This is where we're going to use the flowers of the Agapanthus. You'll see we've got the flowers full out and we've got the little buds. If you pick them at this stage, those buds will come out. So I'm just checking to see if there's any old flowers on them like this one. I'm actually going to take them off because this arrangement has to last a week. So I only want flowers that are half out or about to come out. Now because you've created these little pieces here, you can thread the Agapanthus down, particularly where I've left a stalk. For example, this was just 2 stalks together. Down through here, down through the skewers and into the water. So the skewers don't only hold the Agapanthus stalks together, they're also holding the flowers right down in, and it's reinforcing these all holding themselves up again. I'm going to do that twice more with 2 Agapanthus heads. Look at that one, it's all buds just bursting, waiting to come out. That's going to last for ages in the vase. And it's sitting there as a lovely contrast to the stalks. Alright, that is the basic structure. And I'm going to add all sorts of summer flowers to it, in the pinks and the purples. For example, this lovely hydrangea. And just keeping on threading them through and down into the water. And turn as I add the next one. I've gone for all sorts of random ones. This beautiful dahlia. And each time I put a stalk in, it's adding to the structure, but almost a cabana in the fact that you can see it as something on its own. You can appreciate it just for what it is, but you can also see the back and the front of it. A zinnia down low, so it's peeking out. Another hydrangea, this time a purple one, and I've left the leaves on as a wee bit of a contrast. Turning, adding, threading through and down into the water. So there's the hydrangea. 2 hydrangeas together, different ones, and a lovely little tiny red dahlia as I'm carrying on round, turning round and round. Now another very cool trick, if you don't have a garden like our Florazone magazine garden, you can buy flowers as potted flowers like these beautiful chrysanthemums. I'm going to cut it really low down here. Take off the bottom ones. Just weaving those stalks really gently down through and into the water. So it's a real variety of interesting flowers and forms. Great for coffee tables. It's actually going to a local reception area for our local accountant. See why I used the ring dish? It's giving us a lovely look right the way through. It's keeping it very airy and open. And the last one, I'll plant those pieces in the garden. They mightn't grow white, but they will definitely grow. And there it is. Fantastic structure you can make with Agapanthus stalks and stems. It's modern and interesting, and you can see how large it has come, and yet you've used hardly any flowers, a few skewers, and these lovely Agapanthus. Haha! So this arrangement starts with an ordinary kitchen bowl, white, filled with water. Because we're going to use the Agapanthus this time as the mechanic rather than the main feature. So once again, I've chopped the tops off them, but I want the Agapanthus to hold all the other plant material in place. So I'm cutting it so it's quite low down in the bowl. And I have to get enough of these so they're going to completely fill in the space. So the bigger you can find them, the better. I'm just measuring them so they're all the same. And you'll see they have a natural tendency to sort of stick together. So use this tendency because this is what makes a very cool mechanic. You notice that I don't use floral foam at all. The reason is it is a polymer that is completely unrecyclable. It will sit in the ground forever. And I think if as flower arrangers we go back to the old ways with a bit of a modern touch, we don't need to use it. So you can see it's just sitting there, and yet because of the stickability it has with itself, it's created this very, very cool little mechanic. Now I can put anything down in here, and not only will it hold it in place like a grid, but of course it's a beautiful base and background. Clever, easy, and good for the earth. Now I have one beautiful white Agapanthus here. I'm just going to cut off any of these little flowers here that are going to go to seed because I don't want them. I want just the flowers. These white Agapanthus are lovely. There's not as many of them in my garden, so I encourage the seeds to drop because they are so pure and beautiful looking. I'm going to cut it quite short and pop it down so it's being held up by the other things, and now you can see the bowl shape has been established. It's just as high as the bowl is deep, so we're getting this lovely proportional shape, and now we can add the other things. I have got some lovely green hydrangeas, and see, I can just push them in anywhere and they will stay. It really is quite a magical mechanic. I don't want the leaves, and we're going to push it in down through, and it just sits here. We want the Agapanthus flowers to come through here, and I have some beautiful sedum, and the sedum is a contrast, still the green but a contrast there. With the sedum, take off those bottom leaves and just push them in. I mean, this is a very fast arrangement, and yet it is so effective with all these lovely different contrasts. Because the plant material is directly in water, they're going to last much, much longer than if it was in floral foam. If you're a working florist, of course it doesn't add to your cost. If you are a home flower arranger, it's just proving you don't need to have all the right things to be able to arrange flowers. This would also be a lovely gift, particularly if it was for somebody who loves cooking, because when the arrangement is finished, they've still got a lovely kitchen bowl. And see how I'm distributing those Agapanthus flowers right the way through it, so it's giving a lovely lift. And then we have these beautiful white dahlias. Absolutely astonishing things. And popping those straight through as well. This is such a firm mechanic. Dahlias with big heads like this really do need something to rest on, and that's what's happening. with these lovely, lovely dahlias. Fill one in here. You see I've purposely left gaps for these big statement flowers. And one more. Over on this side. Oh, that is beautiful. This arrangement is going to a gentleman who is helping me with my engineering degree, and so he loves getting all sorts of cool things from me like this. So you can see how it's looking very rich and sumptuous, and yet you can peek through and you can still see that mechanic a little bit. But there it is, as fast as that, a lovely bowl of flowers. Beautiful textures. You can see through if you look down into and still see the spikes of the Agapanthus, but it really is featuring the buds and the beautiful, beautiful white flowers. A bowl of summer flowers. Have a go. It's so easy, isn't it? This is a wonderful opportunity to use vintage or antique glass bottles. These are milk bottles, possibly 50 years old, that we used to have our milk in before we changed to cardboard, and I was lucky enough to have 5 of them. See if you can haunt some of your junk shops and find 5 identical bottles if you can, because the bottles are just going to be the carrier for the rest of the design. You'll also need some glue dots, some string, and of course those lovely, lovely Agapanthus seeds. First thing you're going to do with your string is just loosely tie it to one bottle. You notice I've spaced them out, because this way I can get around the sides of them, and create a swirl of some sort with the string. The string is coming off again. This is just going to be your guide, and you're around with this one, and now this one I'm going to go down a bit, and to the last bottle down to the very bottom for where you're going to put the glue dots. But you're wanting to develop a really lovely rhythm about there. So this is going to give me a descending line. And then the easy part, from your glue dots, see if you can get the ones that are particularly strong. If you're using glass like I am, push down hard on the dot so that all of the dot sticks to the Agapanthus seed like that, and then press it down underneath where you've got your string line. There's the first bottle done following the string, and as you follow it round here you'll see I've graduated the seeds so they get smaller and smaller and smaller as they wind up to the top. The key here is to make sure that the glue dots you use are very, very strong on glass, and if you're finding that the seed pods are popping off, you could try hot glue. Of course you could use commercial spray glue as well. The thing is to try and get them even. Now we've made the leap across to the second bottle, and I will carry on around to there, and then it will leap down to this bottle. So we've got this visual leap between each bottle that's going to connect them all up. It doesn't matter how far apart we put them when we use them on the display. So I'll carry on. I'm putting sometimes the glue dot on the seed, sometimes I'm putting it on the glass, depending how easy it is for me. And for this one, I'm taking off the top piece, the little bottom piece, and trying to find the flattest surface I can as I carry on and push it in, and give it a really good push in. Have a look at it now. Having made the leap across, I've gone right the way around and come back, and as I came back to this point again, I've graduated them downwards to fit in that, and now I've made the leap again down to here, starting big. So you get the idea, as we're going around that will all happen. So I'll just carry on and finish this, and then we can get on with what's next. All done, and you can see now the twirls going round and round and down. And the very last one, I started at the top and I just did a spiral right to the bottom, and you might want to do this on all of yours instead of having that complicated little crossover I did. What your core really is just showing you how you can do a really cool pattern with these lovely Agapanthus seeds. Now back, you saw me cutting them off, so what am I going to do with these? Well, I've got 5 of them, 1 for each container, and this is where you can play. Because we've got that graduation going up, we could have them going smaller, bigger, 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 or we could do the reverse and have them smaller, bigger, 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 and that would give you a line going that way. Also, the Agapanthus themselves are different sizes, so pick them so they graduate, because graduating things are really good fun. So that's the smallest one there, and it's the different colour, so that's me graduating them, and I'm going to do it so it's going to start smaller this end and bigger that end. So they don't have to be very high. I filled these with water, you can see that. So that's going to be my first one, and that's my height. Then on my graduation I go to the next one and make it go down from here. I'll do a bit more than that. And the next biggest one I want about here. Next one I want about here. The last one about here. And here they are, beautiful lilies. And these are the lilies that bend backwards. And look at those beautiful green pieces on here. Just perfect to go with Agapanthus. So you're at the front, and hence having to have the water right to the top because they are short stemmed. And one at the front of every bottom. I've taken off their big brown stamens. If you don't know the big brown stamens, if anybody brushes on them, it will stain clothes really badly, and it's almost impossible to get off. And that gives us, with all that graduation, this gives us a constant line. Straighten these ones up. And there you have it. Incredibly modern, gorgeous Agapanthus stalks, Agapanthus seeds, and a line of beautiful lilies. now is the leaves. What can you do with the leaves of the stunning Agapanthus? This is just one thing, and it is inspired by a technique I saw done in Thailand. So you need a container of some sort. It can be ceramic, can be glass. You're actually not going to see the container, so it doesn't matter, but being round is going to be easier than if you use a square one. And all I've done is put a rubber band on it, and I'm going to put another one on the top here, and the rubber band is just to hold the leaves in. The leaves, here they are, beautiful. Now they will last out of water for 3, 4, 5 days, then they'll start to go yellow. But as they yellow from around the tips, and it looks beautiful. If you don't want them to go yellow or you want them to last longer, put a small bowl underneath your container so that they're sitting in water. But I don't need that right now because this arrangement doesn't need to last more than 3 or 4 days. So this is brilliant for a wedding, for an event, a luncheon, a dinner. Otherwise use that. And we are threading the leaves down. Now these were picked, so they've got that lovely white piece at the base there. And see the rubber band's just holding them in. Agapanthus leaves are always different lengths, you can see that, but we're going to worry about that later. We're actually not worrying at all about it. We're going to deal with that later. So, right down at the next one. How many leaves? Depends on the circumference of your container. You can see now why I'm saying go circular. If I had to deal with corners, or you had to deal with corners here, it's going to be much more difficult when we get to the next part. With anything, and when you're flower arranging, if you do it often enough, it does become a pattern. And when it becomes a pattern, it does establish its own texture. The key when you're doing it is to do everything exactly the same, and it will always work. Other good thing about Agapanthus, you know, it doesn't take very long to arrange these, and yet they are so modern, and they look so good. Just a wee story while I'm doing this. In New Zealand, often Agapanthus are treated with scorn because they grow so easily here. And when I took the first arrangement I did for the Stevie into the accountant, the manager there said to me, "Oh, I've just been pulling those all out of my garden." She said, "I never thought that they could look so pretty or so gorgeous." Oh! And I said, Agapanthus, you know, just because we treat them with almost disdain doesn't mean that we should, because they are astonishing things for flower arranging. You see how flexible these leaves are? They're going in so easily. That on its own looks very, very cool, because we've got this beautiful graduation of colour, just like you do have with steelgrass and bear grass. You have it from that beautiful white where it's been cut at the very base up to the dark green at the top, and it's just beautiful, that colour. It's like somebody's airbrushed it. If you like that with them all, see how they've all naturally gone into the middle? That on itself is a fabulous arrangement. If you had one big beautiful red rose soaring out of the top, or even an Agapanthus stalk soaring out of the top, you've got an arrangement. But I'm going to put flowers in here, and so with this, now I've got them in here, I'm now going to go around and overlap every single one on that rubber band so it overlaps the one before it, because I want to create this pattern. Almost like an old-fashioned pleated skirt, actually. Does that what it reminds you of? Version 1. Now let's have a look at version 2. In Thailand, they bend banana leaves, not Agapanthus, so I'm going to take this one and I'm going to count over 2, and I'm going to tuck it under the rubber band. Take this one, go over 2 and tuck it under the rubber band. So I'm creating another rhythm. Now I want them all to be the same here, so I'm going to pull it, the right one, from the base, this one, so it's the same level, and then cut it off there. Because I want to have this real lovely swirly rhythm coming down for each one behind the other. You can be even more creative. If you've got them long enough, you can tuck them back in again. There's all sorts of cool things you can do once you've got the idea that this is actually your playground for rolling and pinning and doing all these wonderful things with Agapanthus. So I'm going to pull that one up, identify which one it is, pull it down and cut it off. And I'm going to do this all the way around till I've got them nice and even. And this is the top of my container just here. So I'm wanting them so that they are slightly above the top of that container. I really like that. I think this is such an easy thing to do, and yet it looks so wonderful. But then, what are we going to do with those rubber bands? So I've just started. I've just taken a yellow pearl-headed pin. The reason it's yellow is because the flowers I'm going to use inside have got yellow tones in them. And following the line of the rubber band, checking the rubber band is level, I'm just pushing the pin right down like that, and it's going through this Agapanthus from that one and holding it in place. Sometimes we can get too formal, so by mixing them up as I go around, it just makes it more modern, more funky. There we go. I mean, you know, now you've got the idea for this. There's hundreds and hundreds of different ways you can twist these Agapanthus leaves. It takes no time at all. And it's really good fun. I think sometimes we focus on the flowers and forget that the leaves can be just as cool. Cut off the rubber band, and then you've got them all holding in place. Quick and easy. For the bottom one, you need to hold these in place as well, so I'm going to put a strip of the Agapanthus around it, just as if I was going to use a ribbon. Once again, you'd be using ribbon, but I find that ribbon's a little bit old-fashioned these days. Pull it really, really tight and pop it through there with one pin, and that's hiding the rubber band. I can then pop inside here and cut it out, and that is the incredible use of your Agapanthus leaves. So I guess we better finish the rest of the design. Now that I know that these are at the bottom, I can now fill it up with water. The reason I'm filling it up with so much water is because these are short stemmed, these roses. I want them all to reach that water. Now we've got to have something to hold the flowers because they're short stemmed, back to our wonderful Agapanthus stalks. This is an Ikebana technique where you cut the stalk on an angle, you pop it across and you push it down. With glass, don't push it down too hard, you'll break your glass. And that's creating just a little place for me to park the stems without them falling into the water, but holding their heads right up here. I'm going to work on a third, 2/3 for this one. So this is 2/3, so this is a third, about there. So I'm wanting to be about this height. Obviously I want the rose to stand there. It's going to be in the water, but how am I going to stand it up? And this is where your wonderful Agapanthus comes in again, because it can work as an extra stalk. It's wonderful. Now I can either pin it in or tape it in. And if I can pin it through there, and you can see the pin, it's going to become as much as a design feature as every other pin that's in this. There it is, it's gone through. This is a cool trick. You can do this with any plant material. Alright, I'm checking it. Yes, that's the height I want it. Down it goes through my Agapantha. Right down there. And it's holding there. And just need a tiny bit more water. And my rose stem is in water. And I've got the proportions that I want. I'm keeping the leaves on. Those rose leaves are really, really healthy, and I think it adds to the glamour of the whole thing. So I have got 5 of these beautiful roses, plus a dahlia. So have a look in here now. I've put all 5 of them in, and you can see the pins are holding the stalks, and I've put 2 pins in, top and bottom of the rose stalk, and the rose stalk is still in the water there, but it's given us that height. A single dahlia can just be popped in at the front here. There it is. You can do anything in the top. It's obvious, isn't it? You can put all sorts of very, very cool things in the top here. Any colour scheme, any flowers you've got available. Just make sure that the flowers don't override the amazing technique you've done with those Agapanthus leaves. Leaves are also fabulous for wedding favours, for centerpieces, because they can create magic just by curing them. I've got here 4 wee pots just to show you what I mean. These would be perfect on a place setting. Take the leaves, they've been wiped down. Start from this end, because this end is actually quite pithy, so that if it cracks you're not going to see it. And wind it up. As I said, Agapanthus leaves are will last out of water for quite some time. And I have chosen a big white pearl headed pin because of the white of the container. Keep going around. So take it to there. And around again. Now if you don't pin it, it will just spring out, and you might want that. If you don't want it to spring out, it's going to take quite a few. And I'll do one more. I'm starting always with the soft end for these outside ones. And you can do it with the rib showing, this part here, or you could do it the other way around. Right, now when I put it in without being pinned this time, it will automatically just sit there. So you can put one beautiful rose or carnation or something like that. So that's just to show you how you can do it in these little pots. One single white rose in there would be beautiful. But I'm going to do this one a little bit bigger. The size of your container this time will depend on the table that you're using, if you're using it for a centerpiece or if you're using it for a coffee table. And it needs to have a rim on it just to hold in the water. So start again and roll it. And I want these ones quite big, so each one I'm going to roll, and the pin is going right through and out the other side, and that actually in itself, that pin helps become a mechanic. Place it on there and do the next one. They do roll one way easier than the other way. See, if I roll it that way, it's going to go crack. If I roll it this way, it's going with its natural way of being, of growing, of sitting when it's on the Agapanthus plant. And they don't have to be all the same size. And do enough of them to fill up your container. Doesn't that look cool? Now if you're worried about them popping out or anything like that, use another pin just to connect 2 of them together, and it all just makes everything like that one there's a bit tall, so we just pop them like that and it connects them all up, and the action of the pin on there is going to help create the grid I need for adding the flowers. I've also done it so that as many of the pearl pins as I can are facing outwards from the edge, just to connect up that white of the tray. So with that done, it's really secure, and now I can add some water. What I would do if I was doing this for an event, I would go that far and I would not put water in until I got there, and I would not add the flowers till I got there. The reason is when it's such a shallow tray, it's going to slop out anyway. But I'll put them in now, and just so that you know that I have added water. And of course this is another cool mechanic without using floral foam, but using these wonderful parts that are the Agapanthus. The leaves that you normally don't buy with them if you buy them in the flower market, or that normally don't get used at all. So that's going to give us enough water for these other things. Have a look here and you'll see that I've picked in the pinks and the lime greens, and these are hydrangeas, dianthus, the old-fashioned carnations. This is, we call it Love Lies Bleeding, and it is a small one, and of course those lovely lilies. I'm not going to need too much of any of them because I don't want to completely cover this, or you're not going to see those lovely rolled up leaves. So the first thing is the hydrangea, and that is far too big a floret. I'm going for the lime green, so I'm cutting it much smaller and just popping it in one or two places around the dish. And I picked the one that's just got a touch of the red in, so that it will go with the dianthus when I put the dianthus in. This doesn't need much at all. Now this one's got to be cut quite low, and I'm taking off some of the leaves because I don't want them spreading too far. And if you obviously aren't going to find the same plant material as I am, but go for things that have got short stems but are giving you an individual change of form as you go through, and dot them round in an interesting way. It's all about texture, just like the one I did in the white bowl for you earlier on this video. It's all about contrast of texture that's going to make the difference, and having these dangling out like that from there is bringing the arrangement out into the table setting rather than all being completely confined. So it's got to really sit inside those little dishes. Have it going to that one there. Looking beautiful already in those lime greens with all these little curls. I always start with the bigger things first and then go to the smaller. So I'm going to leave the dianthus till last. Now here's the little lily that I cut back earlier. So I open up its skirts a wee bit, make sure it's in the water, and it just sits in there. The other thing you can do, just to show you, you can actually put the stem right through in here, and that will hold it right in. I'll show you. See how the stem, if the stem goes in there and not in the middle, and then as I push it down, it's holding it in really tight. And I think we only need a couple of these lilies. This is very European, everything's fairly flat. Pop it in again in between where I did the folds. Making sure it goes right down into the water and facing outwards. Okay, we'll have a couple more of these little hydrangeas. These ones got the pink on them, that's why I picked these ones, but we still only need a floret. One little floret, pop it in here. It's quite open, this one. One in there. Now here they are, the dianthus. They're old-fashioned. They smell absolutely divine. This is why 50, 60 years ago they were such a popular flower, because they smell so beautiful. And these two are going to have to go in the folds, because that just holds them up better. Just slide them down. Isn't that a cool mechanic, when you can actually just push it in there and it will sit there, and yet it's soaking up that water. The reason I'm putting them in just 2s and 3s is because they're such tiny flowers, they could easily disappear. So it becomes like a wee garden. Pushing it down in. And then I'm going to finish off with just a few more of the hydrangeas in the middle there. Another fabulous late summer hydrangea that I have added to this corner here, and another lily. What's amazing about this mechanic is not only can those stems go between the circles of the Agapanthus, but it also can go in the middle of the Agapanthus circle, or it can go in the fold. So you've got 3 different places you can put these stems, and you're still not using floral foam. It looks like a little garden. You change it, you can bling it up, you can have pearls sitting here, you can have the water showing in the middle, you could even have big candles coming out. So it's a really, really versatile mechanic that you can use in myriad ways to create really, really interesting designs anywhere you are, as long as you can find an Agapanthus plant. Finish this video with a bouquet. There's lots of ways to make a bouquet, but the Agapanthus gives you a unique opportunity. So have a look down here and you'll see. When the flowers are finished, you have these little pieces plus the seed heads. You can either make a bouquet while the flowers are all out, or you can make it when it's got to this stage, where I have taken all of the dead parts of the flowers off. They just pull off like this, and you get the seed heads. I have taken off quite a few of the seed heads, the ones that are sort of brown and past it. If you don't like that look, of course you can go back to the completely naked look of just having the stalks themselves. So already you've got a range of possibilities. I like the seed heads. I think they give it quite a nice texture, and it saves you adding berries, so I'm going to use this one for the bouquet. The other advantage of using Agapanthus is you've immediately got your handle. Makes it easy. You don't have to add ribbon, you don't have to bind it, you don't have to do anything with the handle. It's fancy. You just have to decide how long you make it, and that's another choice, because it's very fashionable right now to have extremely long handles if you've got a tall bride. Just because this is a demonstration, I'm going to cut it square there. The glass vase is there simply to give me a place to hold it while I make the bouquet, so that is a jig really to make it easier. Having decided on what part of the Agapanthus you're going to use, you now need to prepare the plant material. Now I've chosen long-lasting plant material that when it's out of water, so this bouquet can be made the day before its presentation, and it's going to last a week at least with no water added whatsoever. The first thing I am using is aspidistra. With the aspidistra I'm going to contrast it with conifer, and then I'm going to contrast that with small florets from the hydrangea. To prepare the aspidistra, have a close look and you'll see that there's lines down it there. So I'm going to cut it down on one of those lines. Makes very easy to cut because all I'm really after is strips. I won't need many. Do it on the other side as well, and you should get 4 to 6 strips from each leaf, depending of course of how big the leaf is. For this design, looking at the head there, I'm probably going to need 15 or 20 of them. The conifer, I'm going to cut this down to pieces about that big. Why that big? Because then they're going to fit inside here and create a contrast. And I might need 15 and 20 or 20 of those. So I'm just taking them off this main branch, taking off any of these big ones that I don't want, and just preparing it all before I start. The third thing is the hydrangea, and I'm going to actually go for a contrast to the green. Green this year is very, very much on trend. In fact, greenery was named the Pantene colour of the year. So you're going to find lots and lots of people who are very, very fashionable and on trend who are saying, oh, I want green. So that's why I'm doing it predominantly green. But I love this hydrangea here. It's a white hydrangea, and as it ages it goes green. The fabulous thing about hydrangeas is as they age they also dry, so this whole thing will be very, very long lasting. This will not work with new spring hydrangeas, they will be dead the next day, but these tough old ones that have been sitting all summer on the bush are going to be great. Now I'm going right down, picking this whole floret here, and then I'm going to go even smaller and just pick that one little tiny piece. That's what I'm looking for, and I'm going to look for it in green and the slightest tinge of red, just to give it a little bit of more colour. So that's my colour range all through the greens. Lime green here will keep it all lovely and light. So I've got a bit of preparation to do, and once I've finished preparing it, we'll get started. The type of glue you use is crucial for this type of design. If you are going to use tough things like the conifer, you can use hot glue. But hot glue on delicate florets like this will make them go brown. So if you can get hold of floral adhesive, which is called cold glue, it's going to be much, much better if you're using delicate plant material. The one reason I can use hot glue is when I put these in, the part where the hot glue is will be hidden. And because it's hidden, it's not going to matter. It's going to go a little bit brown because you're not going to see it. So I'm going to start by putting this in this bouquet armature, which is what it now is, into my little holder so it's straight up and down. Make sure that the stem isn't on sideways like this, but just have it so it's sitting comfortably and straight up and down, so everything you do is going to be even on it. The other thing with this, have a look here and you'll see nature has put it out in lovely, beautiful curve. So if you stay within the bounds of these, you're going to end up with a posy. If you flick your plant material out from that, you're going to end up with a bigger arrangement. So it all depends on if you've got a small bride that wants a posy or a big, big one. If it's big, you'd have these flipping out all over it this way. I'm going to make it quite contained, quite petite. The hot glue is hot enough. You can see it's dribbling out. I'm using an old saucer here, and just the tiniest dab of it onto there, and that pushes it down onto there and creates the little loop that I require. Then I'm going to put another tiniest dab on this side and thread it down through, around and into the Agapanthus, and so it's going to sit just like that, just on the outside of it. I want to make this quite uniform. Turn it, dab it, push it down, turning this around here, side and side, and pushing it in. So the contrast isn't huge with the seed heads, but it's just enough with the dark and with the loop to give us something interesting. I'm going to do that right the way round. I've cut up 3 aspidistras, given them a good wash, and I should get 2 loops out of each one of the strips. Decide also if you want to do it as a pattern or if you want it more random. And it just sits there. Okay, I'll keep going. There's the first row, just around the rim there I've done. See, I've spaced them out fairly evenly as we've done those loops. And now I'm going to carry on with another row around here and another row around there. So the whole thing is going to have these little loops all the way through it. I'll turn it round and you can just see those loops. The contrast is certainly not with colour, but it is with texture. But what it's also done is it's started to fill in the gaps that are left when I've cut off some of those seed heads, and the flowers of course have gone. So you're seeing less of the stalks and you're seeing more of just seed heads and loops. So the next piece, of course, is the conifer. And once again, all you need is a little bit of glue on the very base and push that in between the pieces as well. Immediately we've got this lovely contrast happening there with texture. When you pick your plant materials, this is what you're looking for. If you're going all one colour, look for smooth, look for busy tizzy. And I'm putting some down low, some down high, but pushing that stalk right in to as far as I can get it into the core of the aspidistra stalk. Starting by going right round the base. What's wonderful about this type of arrangement, of course, because every part of the plant material is glued, it's not going to fall out when the bride uses it. The other thing is you're not having to use any plastic bridal holders with their floral foam. You can't say, oh, I've run out of supplies, therefore I can't do this bouquet. You can live way out in the middle of nowhere and you can still make an arrangement like this because you're not relying on any commercial supplies. See what's happening? It's just starting to build and build and build this beautiful little posy. Once again, I'll go from around the bottom and then I'll build it up around the top as well. Pretty easy, isn't it, really? But the effect is astonishing. It's looking quite different now, isn't it? The seed heads have started to disappear into it. The little yellow tips on the top of that lovely conifer is keeping it nice and bright. And I'll just turn it around so you can see how integrated those three have all now become. Alright, take a closer look here and you'll see where I took off the seed heads that were old and horrible. They've left with these lovely little stalks, and those stalks are what we're looking for the next part. I've got 2 types of hydrangea down here. I've got the lime green ones and I've got, for a little bit of colour, these ones here. They're called antique hydrangeas when they're sold. It simply means old. Been around a while, but they do remind me of little butterflies. They're absolutely beautiful. This is when you change to cold glue if you are wanting to put glue on these bits, but I'm going to put glue on this tiny little stalk here, along here. Take it up to here. There's the stalk. And put it so it's sitting on that stalk. The stalk is now holding a hydrangea floret rather than the seed head. Hold it down for a minute. If you're using cold glue, you'll have to hold it down for probably 20 seconds. And there it is, all glued in, just like a little butterfly. I'll turn it around and you'll see where else I'm going to put them. All these little pieces here, all these little pieces where the seed pods were, are my source of stalk. And I'm going to mix up the green with the red, so it just does look like a host of butterflies have landed. But it won't take long, it's just delicate. It's also not using up very much plant material, so you're adding enormous value to one aspidistra stalk with using all sorts of tiny things that you mightn't be able to use for anything else. Delicate and beautiful. There's the butterflies all in place. What's very cool about putting them on the stalks like that is they do rise above it. Here's an example of it here. Because that's sitting on the stalk, it's above all the basing that we did beforehand. So it really does give another dimension. Now, if instead of using the seed head you'd use an aspidistra in flower, these would also be aspidistra flowers here, and it would be far more floral. So depending on the time of the season you've got, depending on your choices with the plant material, this can be a very unique but very quick arrangement to do. It can become a bouquet, of course. You just lift it off. There it is, like that. And underneath, have a look underneath there. It's beautiful. Why would you want to hide that? It is nature's beautiful armature. Gorgeous. And it sits like this, and there it is. In Europe, they sometimes have 2 wedding ceremonies and 2 bouquets, one for the registry office, one for the church, and that would be a perfect bouquet for a flower girl, a bride, bridesmaids, mother of the bride. It just works, and it's so simple. Have a go. I hope I've got you really enthusiastic about the wonders of Agapanthus. If you live in a temperate climate like we do here in New Zealand, they will grow very, very easily, and you might want to keep them contained. If you grow in a colder climate, put them in a container that you can bring inside during the winter, and you'll be rewarded in summer with all these wonderful things you can do with the glorious, beautiful Agapanthus.